what? For the problems of this world are many. And we can wake up in the mornings and go to bed at night, like poor Alexander, with very bad, horrible, no good days. And we can wonder, what is life worth living? What in the world is worth waking up for and fighting and trying to keep going? It is not easy. There are so many things that keep coming at us round and round and round again. And what breaks the cycle of violence, like in El Paso in Ohio, mass shootings in the last 2 days? What breaks the cycle of war in our world? What breaks the cycles of conflict in our families, of people with too little to eat or not enough school supplies? What breaks the cycle of disease, of weather, of things that simply keep going wrong? And like that writer of Ecclesiastes, we sometimes say, vanity of vanity. All is vanity. Everything in this life seems to fall apart. But I have a vision. And our lessons in this world and in these texts today have a vision of something different. I have a vision not of things that relate to an I, because all of the things that were problems in these lessons deal with what's my possession, what's my need, what am I doing, how do I get my things, how do I get my rights. But the Colossians lesson particularly starts talking about what are we doing in our life together with Christ. There's a whole different perspective when we switch from I to we. And I have a vision that as a community of Christ, this community and others like it around the world can break that cycle, and instead of bad things keep coming round and round and round and round, that God's love can keep coming round and round and round again. You see, we're all connected, aren't we? What happens in a rainforest in Amazon? What happens in the ice shelf in Antarctica? What happens in Syria? What happens in Spring Valley? All of these things are connected. And when we talk about God's love and being rich in God's love and being together in God's love, something new happens. It's a community. And we together can make love go round and round and round. Now, I once knew of a building contractor who was focused only on himself. Everything was an I. He had to have the perfect buildings, the perfect way to construct everything that he made. He was so controlling, in fact, that he made sure his lists of supplies and things were so exact that when he got done with the project, there was nothing that was still needed and nothing that was left over. It was perfect. So imagine this man who is so focused on I and who is so wanting to be perfect about everything, came to the end of a building project, and he looked and he had one single brick left over. It devastated him. There was no place for this one last brick in his project. He had failed. It was not perfect. He had something left over, and he was so discouraged, so angry, so frustrated that he took that brick and he threw it as far away as he could. And he went off discouraged, saying, vanity of vanities. Everything's a vanity. It's a no good, horrible day. And nothing is working. Now when we can change that picture and see something good that comes out, it's when people together start coming together to multiply the joys that happen in a community. Last night we had a baptism. Isle of Rain was baptized into our community. Next week at the outdoor worship service, we've got 2 baptisms coming. Won't that be fun? Absolutely great. And these occasions are an important part of our community life together. It multiplies the joy when we share those things together. We are sponsors and community that surrounds families with new life and new beginnings. And we need to work together in that way. We support our Sunday school children. We support people in our assisted living areas. Together, we multiply the joys. But I also know something about this community. Because as I look out at your faces, I know that things are not always right. There are secret things that you don't tell too many people. There are problems with hospitalizations, with things that are going on in your families. But I also know that there are people out there who open up and help to fill the bad places and reach out to one another with a gesture of love and with a treasure of what God has for people. The love fills in the places, and it brings us to a place where hurts are divided into. Our connectedness is incredibly important. That's what Jesus was talking about when he talked about in the parable that was here today. He says to the person who asks him, "Tell my brother to share the inheritance with me." Jesus gets asked to solve all kinds of family squabbles. We do that too, don't we? Go to mom, go to dad, go to someone. Tell them to do this. And Jesus says, there is no need. Because when we together as a community act out of love and putting God first in our lives, we find that there is new life. He said that the person who decided to pull down his barns and store everything that he had and say, "I've got it made. I know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. There's no more problems. I've got it all taken care of." And then his life ends abruptly. And soon. And everything that he's prepared goes to someone else. That's what the Ecclesiastes writer says is such a vanity. But Jesus says, store up your treasures in heaven. Paul says, set your mind on heavenly things. Because rich in Christ, we have treasure that lasts. And it is a community of love that keeps coming round and round and round again. Look at the way the psalmist said it. We can never redeem the life of another or give to God the ransom for a life, because the ransom for a life is too great. There would never be enough to pay for it. But think what Jesus has done for all of us. God has come into this world, taken on human flesh, become a human God himself, and he alone has paid the full ransom for every life. Canceling out the very bad, canceling out the horrible, and not the good things, and teaching us to be connected in love one to another, so that it keeps coming round and round and round, over and over again. I know about a story about a man and a woman. The woman was traveling by train. She had her little dog, Fifi, a toy poodle, who was sitting next to her on the train. The train was very, very crowded, and when the big, robust man came and saw that the only seat left was where the dog was sitting, he had to ask the woman to pick up her dog. Reluctantly, she put the dog in her lap. The man edged in and squeezed into the last remaining seat. I hate dogs, he said. This is going to be a no-good train ride. And so in order to endure the train ride, the man took out of his pocket a great big old cigar and lit it up. "Oh no," said the woman. "You can't smoke that thing in here." It's the only way I can endure this trip with you and that dog and all the crowds. And puff away he did. And the woman said, "Oh, you can't smoke it. Look, my dog is choking. You're getting everything all smoky and my dog is allergic to it. Oh, poor Fifi, what are we going to do?" And in desperation, the woman took this cigar out of the man's mouth and threw it out the window. The man, enraged at what the woman had done, picked up the little dog and threw the dog out the window. It was not a good day. They were not working together. And then the train started to go around a very broad curve. And as both man and woman looked out the window, amazed at what had just happened, they started to see coming running pell-mell across the fields a little dog. The dog was running and running and running and getting closer and closer to the train. "Oh, it's Fifi," said the woman. And the man just said, "Humph." And then as the dog got closer, they could see that this little dog was carrying something in its mouth. And as it got closer and closer, they began to see what the dog was carrying. Can you guess what the dog was carrying? What do you think it was? No, it was the brick that the contractor made. Our lives are connected. There are no loose ends. Things keep coming back at us in all kinds of surprising ways. God is full of surprises like that. It's a story. But remember God's surprise of love for you. It keeps coming round and round and round again. And together, that's what we can be and do. And it starts right here, one with each other. And it spreads, and it's contagious, and God's love is there. Seek it, trust it, be rich in Christ, and set your things on things above, because it will keep coming back to you over and over again. Amen. Let us pray. Almighty God, you give us the power to laugh at ourselves, to see how our foolishness can be turned to joy in your love. Keep us always so in love with you that that love keeps coming round and round and round again.